Hey, how's it going? Josh and I are here in the garage, and we're playing with the new toy.
Oh,
here.
yes.
Yeah, so we've got, Little Red Riding Hood.
Or a can of worms.
Yeah, So, and you've probably seen in the previous video when we kind of did an introduction on the car. Now what we found is this is a really neat car, but it was an older restoration, and there's a lot of things that we want to change,
That's
update,
right.
and correct. You might run into that in a car you purchased or something like that. People have played with this car for years. Now we're going to do it right. What we've done is we've removed the motor.
Yes.
Didn't expect to.
But it was leaking oil from everywhere, and it was leaking water from outside to the inside.
Yeah. But we're taking this time right now to completely rebuild the front suspension. So we want to go over a couple things. On the previous episodes that we finished with the 59 suspension, that had the air ride, and that also was the similar frame as a 64, known as an X frame, which is, it pinches in the middle, and that's the style that these Cadillacs had for several years. Difference is the front suspension, which you saw us build for the 59, this is completely different. One of the first things I want to get into is we pulled all the parts off, cleaned them, checked them, and what's interesting with, for instance, these upper control arms, we have the ball joint right here. Cadillac, originally, for this vehicle, said that if you have to replace the ball joint, you have to replace the arm.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. And that was the part you'd go down to your Cadillac dealership and get a whole arm.
And the factory ball joint's welded in.
Yeah, it's welded
Tack
in.
welded a couple spots.
So we offer a kit that will replace that ball joint. It does take a little more effort. There actually are welds that you have to weld off there and press it out. Why don't we go ahead and we'll show you how we're going to assemble this front end. And whenever you're doing a front end, you're dealing with springs, with pressure, this is a big safety thing. This is a situation, let me tell you, I've broken many fingers on stuff like this, and I'm just glad I haven't gotten hit in the face.
Yeah. So a spring will take you out if it gets loose. So.
It's dangerous. So this is a real safety first situation. So let's go ahead and take a look.
So here we have the upper control arm ready to install, and Bob's up top. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this through to his side, and then I'm going to go underneath, and the two bolt holes up in the spring pocket. We'll get the bolts, and Bob will put the nuts on.
You want to go ahead and just put your lock nut on there.
And always replace the lock nuts with new ones.
Yeah, lock nuts are a one-time only. So you can go ahead and push that other bolt up through there. I've got it right in line. And all this is going to get pressure washed, cleaned up, real detailed. Get a nice clean looking engine compartment, but we want to get this thing rolling right first. Next piece is the spindle right here. So, and what's nice is they're actually left and right spindles are interchangeable on there. Same with the lower control arm.
That's correct.
Yes.
It's a camber adjusting eccentric.
Exactly.
This is part of what you use for doing the wheel alignment.
You'll see that there's an offset hole in there, and that's what you're going to turn to do the wheel alignment right there.
As you turn this, you'll move the spindle that way and that way. It actually move kind of like that. So, and this has been lubricated up a little bit because you do need to have it mounted and fairly tight, but still going to be able to put a wrench on here and turn this with the weight of the car on this, because the alignment has to be done with the car, with the weight on the suspension. It's
good to note also to realize, or note where the hole orientation is when you remove the other one.
Yeah,
so you can get it back in a general area right there.
I turn the spindle upside down. This washer is oriented like this, so that as the eccentric is turned, it has the clearance, so it doesn't hit this was mounted the wrong way, you couldn't get all the way in.
This is going to connect to that upper control arm that we just installed.
The upper ball joint.
Right now we're going to take a moment to point out that we already did the steering on here. So we completely rebuilt and replaced the parts for the steering. You'll notice that this is a remanufactured steering box that came off the shelf at Caddy Daddy. We rebuilt the rag joint, and that's the piece that connects the steering column to the steering box. And Josh also wants to point out on the crosslink here.
Yeah, it's basically the same geometry as the 59, but all not rebuildable. It's all replaceable. So the center link here, if you go to replace that, and you're not paid attention to how you've taken it apart, this distance here between the driver's side tie rod and the pitman arm is about 5 1/4 inches. And on the passenger side, between the tie rod and the idler arm is about 6 1/4 inches center to center. So the longer spacing goes on the passenger side in case you've taken yours apart and don't know how it goes.
All right, and over here, this is the idler arm, which goes on there, which keeps the geometry correct with your steering box. This is something that really has a tendency to wear out. So I even personally check all these myself before they go out. So this is a good part to look at replacing on your vehicle.
So what we have here is the completely assembled brake backing plate with new springs and wheel cylinder, hose, everything new from Caddy Daddy. And something I'd like to point out is, it's always a good idea to take a photograph because the service manual only shows you one side of the car. And the photograph's not in color usually. And so if you take a picture of what you have, and then you can always use your computer and flip it to get a mirror image for the other side of the car. But don't assume that the way that it's been put together before you is correct.
You think we might have ran into that with this?
Yes,
Yep.
There's quite a few things we've run into on this car. If the lines are narrow on the self-adjuster on the front brakes, thin lines are the left side. If the lines are fat, it's the right side. If you have them side by side, you'll notice that. And the other thing is the replacement spring kit has silver colored springs for these locations. These are yellow. In the service manual, these are called out yellow and these are called out as red. So that was one difference between the parts kit. So this is all ready to go on.
That's what's nice to have the different references
Yes.
and to be able to have the backing plate off and do that on the bench.
Oh, much easier to assemble these on the workbench.
Oh, absolutely. You have 3 points. You have 2 right here. Then you have one main one up here that actually has the float above the wheel cylinder. So on the back of the backing plate, this is your steering arm. That's going to go through both of these bolts and then onto your spindle. When you look at the back of the backing plate, it should go right up against.
Everything should be flush and it shouldn't rock. It's seated properly here.
Yeah, you won't see any exposed machine surface on the opposite side. And now that we have everything installed up on here and connected, we're going to go ahead and take the brake drum. Now this guy, we're going to stick with the original drum brakes.
The drum is quite heavy.
We get the slide on there. And we put new seals and new bearings in here. And then you slide your washer in the right orientation. So the brake spoon, what there is a relief in the drum. There's a little hole right here. What that is on the backing plate, there was the little geared wheel on the bottom. That's the self-adjuster.
The self-adjuster.
So what that does is that will expand and contract with the springs, but we're going to go ahead and run it up and put it in an initial position. And I'm just running it up and I'm spinning it until I start to feel a little bit of resistance. He'll be taking the spoon, which is a brake tool, that's just a flat piece, and on either end, usually it's bent at a 45 degree or a 90 degree angle, and then a little bit on the other one, so you can just get in there and roll that wheel.
The sound you hear clicking is the self-adjuster clicking over the bumps.
There we go. Now we're getting resistance.
There we go, a little drag. Good enough for now. Make a final adjustment later.
So now we're going to get the wheels on this, drop it down, and we'll work on the sway bar, which is basically our last piece for the front suspension. And that way we'll be rolling. We can roll it back and forth, and get some more room in here.
Make some progress.
Yeah,
Move forward.
I like it. Let's do it.
Vine Village is a great organization that gives back to the community. Check it out. You'll see so as well. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Sonnen Kirsten. We're here at the 2018 Vine Village Celebration, our major fundraiser here that helps fund programs that we run for people with developmental disabilities here in the greater Napa community. Vine Village was founded by my family and another family, each who had children with disabilities, in 1972. We depend on donations from all sorts of foundations and individuals and businesses throughout our community to help fund these programs, and this is our biggest fundraiser of the year.